It is an incredible zechus, Baruch Hashem, to be able to be here with all of you today, albeit virtually. Halavai, we should be zochem Yirtzeh Hashem to be in Yerushalayim together. I want to wish everyone a freilich and Chanukah, a good tevach, and thank you to Rabbi Richter for giving the shir over the last couple of days. I hope in Yirtzeh Hashem to be able to give shir for hopefully I'm going to try for all of this week, schedule permitting in Yirtzeh Hashem. But it's a great zechus, Baruch Hashem, every day that we're able to learn together. Today's daf is Lamed Ches 38. And I'm sure you got a little bit further on Shabbos, but for the sake of just efficiency, let's pick up at the Mishnah on Lamed Zayin Amud Beis 38b. So the Mishnah says as follows: Shor shel Yisrael shenagach shor shel hekdesh. If a shor of a Jew went ahead and gored a shor that belongs to Hekdesh, Hekdesh means the Beis HaMikdash, V'shal Hekdesh nagach l'shor shel hadyot, or for that matter, a shor, an ox that belonged to the Beis HaMikdash, went ahead and gored a regular Jew, or right, the shor of a regular Jew, pater. Ultimately, in either case, you're pater. So whether it's the shor of a regular Jew that gores the shor of Hekdesh, or it's the shor of Hekdesh that gores the shor of a regular Jew, either way, one is pater. Shne'emar sharei ehu v'lo shor shel hekdesh, because the pasuk says it is only liability when you go ahead and you injure sharei ehu, the shor of your fellow. Fellow means another individual. What the Mishnah is saying is re'ehu, your fellow, however, comes to exclude hekdesh, that one would not be liable if they gore a shor of hekdesh, nor would a shor of hekdesh be liable if it gores my shor. Okay, let's go back there. Says Gemara, shor shel Yisrael shenagach l'shor shel Kanani pater. If the shor of a Jew goes ahead and gores the shor of a non-Jew, ultimately again pater. V'shel Kanani shenagach l'shor shel Yisrael. But if the shor of a Kanani goes ahead and gores the shor of a Yisrael, bein tam bein mu'am mishalim nezek shalim. So two interesting halachas. If the shor of a Jew goes ahead and gores the shor of a non-Jew, pater, exempt. But if the shor of a non-Jew gores the shor of a Jew, whether the goring shor was a tam or a muad, ultimately again the non-Jew pays the Jew nezek shalim complete damages. It says the Gemara, Masnisin to look at Rishim Menasio. Our Mishnah clearly does not reflect the view of Rishim Menasio. Why not? The Sanya shor shel hedyot shenagach shor shel hekdesh v'shel hekdesh shenagach shor shel hedyot pater shneimar shor evelo shor shel hekdesh. So remember again, Gemara quotes this Braisa. The Braisa, first part of the Braisa, echoes the same theme as our Mishnah, that whether the shor of a Jew gores the shor of Hekdesh, or shor of Hekdesh goes ahead and gores the shor of a Jew, either way you're pater. Why? Because the pasuk was speaking about liability for goring. Dafka talks about one shor goring the shor of his fellow. But again, in this case, the re'ehu requirement has not been satisfied. Rabbi Shimon Menashe Omer, post a second wide line, Laman Zayin base 37b. Rabbi Shimon Menashe Omer, shor shel hekdesh nagach shor shel hedyot pater, v'shel hedyot shenagach shor shel hekdesh. So Rabbi Shimon Menashe says like this: if ultimately again, if a shor of hekdesh gores a shor of a regular person, right, of a regular person, then it's pater. There's no liability for hekdesh. However, v'shel hedyot shenagach shor shel hekdesh bein tam bein muar mishalim nezek shalim. Rabbi Shimon Menashe, however, says that if a regular Jew's shor goes ahead and gores the shor of hekdesh, complete liability. Whether the goring shor is a tam or a muad, whenever you injure hekdesh, you always have to pay nezek shalim. Omri. So here's the shaila. So this is the position. So obviously the Gemara says our Mishnah does not reflect the view of Rabbi Shimon Menashe, because Rabbi Shimon Menashe holds that although it's true that if a shor of hekdesh gores the shor of a regular Jew, that there's no liability. If the shor of a regular Jew gores the shor of hekdesh, whether the goring shor is a tam or a muad, you have to always pay nezek shalim to hekdesh. This is Rabbi Shimon Menashe. So Gemara says, what's the pshat? My kasar Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon hold? Re'ehu dafka. If he darshins re'ehu, then afilu shahad yoshinagach shal hekdesh lipater. If you darshin re'ehu, then even the shor of a regular Jew, which gores the shor of hekdesh, should be pater. V'ire'ehu lav dafka, but if re'ehu is not dafka, if you don't darshin re'ehu, afilu de hekdesh nami kinagach de hedyot kilachayiv. Then a shor of hekdesh, if it gores the shor of a regular person, should also be chayiv. So Rishon Menashe, what's the pshat? What are you darshaning? V'chitim li olam kasav re'ehu dafka. Maybe Rishon Menashe holds that no, re'ehu is dafka. In other words, the halacha l'maisa, re'ehu means there's only liability for goring the shor of another Jew, of re'ehu. Umihu de hedyot ki nagach de hekdesh. So why is it then? If that's the case, Rishon Menashe darshans, if he does darshan re'ehu, then in the case of where a regular Jew, his shor gores the shor of hektish, why is there liability? Mishum the kameisim and kavachomer. Mishum Nasa means kavachomer. What's the kavachomer? So he says kavachomer de hedyot. Uma hedyot shenagach shal hedyot chayiv. If when a shor of a regular Jew gores the shor of a regular Jew, there's liability. Ki nagach de hektish lakol shekaim. All the more so if a Jew, right? If the Rav Shimon Nasi's logic is like this: if there's liability for goring the shor of a regular Jew, then alachas Kamma v'Kamma there should be liability for goring the shor of hektish as well. It's kavachomer. Lakoshkin mechayiv. Tuish Gemara says, 1 second. If that's going to be kavachomer, then dayo lava min adin lioskin. We spend a significant amount of time with dayo, right? When you make a kavachomer, then ultimately, again, remember the kavachomer. The strength of the kavachomer is capped at the strength of the two respective parts. So the Gemara says, for example, tam chatzi nezek, hacha nami chatzi nezek. So okay, you want to make a kavachomer, make a kavachomer. What's kavachomer? If there's liability when one Jew gores the shor of another Jew, then alachas Kamma v'Kamma, there is liability when one Jew gores the shor of hektish, or you understand? We say when the shor of a Jew gores the shor of hektish. That's your kavachomer. That's fine, but then just like when the shor of a Jew gores the shor of another Jew, there's a distinction between tam and muad, and tam only pays chatzi nezek. That same distinction should apply when a Jew goes ahead and gores the shor of hektish. Yet we said before that halacha l'maisa, there's complete liability when goring the shor of hektish. So what's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, hakol hayu bichlal nezek shalim. In reality, Reish Lakish is like this. Here's the svara of Shem Menasya. In reality, really there should be nezek shalim. In other words, we'll say the concept when you damage someone, there's complete damages. So really, the way we start out on the laws of damages is that when you damage someone, there's nezek shalim. Kishepartacha kasav re'ehu gabe tam. Re'ehu de tam mishalim chatzi nezek. Mechlal de hekdish bein tam bein muar mishalim nezek shalim. This is interesting. There's an interesting idea over here. He says, in reality, when you damage someone, there should be nezek shalim. Chatzi nezek is a chiddush. Half damages by a tam is a chiddush. And where is half damages introduced? Dafka by the phrase of re'ehu. To teach you that it is only damage done to another Jew that carries the penalty of chatzi nezek. But if you damage hekdish, it's always nezek shalim. Fascinating. Top of Lamed Ches. The imkain nichtov kra lahai re'ehu gabi muad. Because otherwise, you could have written re'ehu by muad. The fact that ultimately chatzi nezek is only written, I should say that re'ehu is only written by chatzi nezek. I'm sorry. The Gemara says, let me just read that. The imkain, top line, the imkain, because otherwise, nichtov kra, let the Torah write this pasuk, lahai re'ehu gabi muad. Let the Torah put re'ehu by muad. So the fact that ultimately, again, re'ehu is dafka mentioned by tam, indicates to us that the chiddush of chatzi nezek is only a din by re'ehu that is a tam. But when it comes to injuring hekdish, anytime you injure a shor of hekdish, it is going to be nezek shalim, whether the injuring shor, the perpetrator shor, is a tam or is a muad. Okay, so I will say, so the truth is, while the conversation is fascinating and riveting, the truth is, it's a little bit, it's not really lemaisa, because halacha lemaisa, we paskin like the Tanakama, not like Rabbi Shmuel Silber, and therefore we hold that halacha lemaisa, whether a shor of hekdish damages a shor of regular Jew, or the shor of a regular Jew damages a shor of hekdish, whenever one of the parties to the damage is hekdish, is the Beis HaMikdash, there is no liability, there's no damages, right? Not for tam, not for muad. Why? Because we subscribe to the drasha of re'ehu. The halacha of damages, when it comes to a damaging shor, tam or muad, is only a din between Jews. Once hekdish is a party to this, no liability. Incredible. Lamed Chesem Dalef 38a, second line. Shor shel Yisrael shenagach, shor shel Kanani pater. So the next thing the Mishnah said is that if a shor of a Jew goes ahead and gores the shor of a non-Jew, there's no liability. No liability. But remember again, but the reverse is not true, right? If the shor of a Jew injures the shor of a Kanani pater, but if the shor of a Kanani injures the shor of a Jew, whether it's tam or whether it's muad, you have to pay nezek shalim. So let's analyze. Amri, So I don't understand this halacha. Let's analyze. So if we're dashing re'ehu, which tells us that the laws of shar damages only apply between Jews, then the knani kinarach the Yisrael namili pater. Then if that's the case, then when the shar of a non-Jew injures the shar of a Jew, he should also be pater. The Gemara says, "V'ireu lav dafkin." If you're not dashing re'ehu, afilu the Yisrael kinarach the knani nechayiv. Then ultimately, even when the shar of a Jew injures the shar of a non-Jew, there should be liability. So both say, listen to this incredible. Rabbi Yavo quotes the pasuk. Quotes the pasuk over here from Chabakuk. The pasuk says, "Amad vayimoded aretz ra'a vayater goyim." So speaking about the Rebbe Shalom went ahead. He literally Amad. He stood up. He surveyed the land. Ra'a, he saw. Vayater, he released the goyim. He released the nations of the world. What does it mean? He released the nations of the world. But it's an incredible Gemara. Ra'a sheva mitzvos shekibla alei minei Noach. Kadosh Baruch Hu saw that almost all the nations of the world were commanded regarding 7 mitzvos. Remember again, whereas Klal Yisrael 613 mitzvos, the nations of the world are simply bound by the 7 Noachide laws. The 7 Noachide laws, which overwhelming majority of them are intuitive. Okay, so what happened? Kivan shlo kaimu, but he saw that the nations of the world were not upholding the Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. They were not upholding the 7 Noachide laws. Sa'amad vehitir mamon Yisrael. So literally what this means is, Kadosh Baruch Hu permitted their money to Klal Yisrael. Now, what does this mean? Kadosh Baruch Hu permitted their money to Klal Yisrael. What it means is that there's no liability. Kadosh Baruch Hu exempted Klal Yisrael from payment of damages done to the non-Jewish nations. Obviously, I can't go and steal from a non-Jew. That I can't do. But Lamaisa, where there are damages, ultimately, again, I'm not going to be liable to damages done to a non-Jew. It's a penalty for the fact that the nations of the world were non-compliant with the 7 Noachide laws. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's such an overwhelming Gemara that the Rebbe Shalom such, and it's sobering. It's sobering. Truth is, quite frankly, it's depressing. The Rebbe Shalom set such basic expectations for the community of mankind. Such basic expectations. And Kadosh Baruch Hu saw that the community of mankind did not live up to the basic expectations levied upon them. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, you're not going to live up to the basic expectations. And Kadosh Baruch Hu therefore said, Klal Yisrael, which not only lives up to expectations, but surpasses expectations, is freed from financial liabilities, from damages done to the nations of the world. However, it's such a striking Gemara also when we see the barbaric nature of Hamas, and we see clearly again that community not living up to any social code or any code of conduct, but we even see how often the world even just lacks an empathy, even just lacks a basic sense of human care and concern for what happens to the Jewish. It's overwhelming. It sounds so strange to us. How can you not live up to Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach? But unfortunately, we see it. So the penalty ultimately for not living up to Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach, Kadosh Baruch Hu released Klal Yisrael from any financial claims that may come about as a result of damages done between Jew and non-Jew. So the Gemara goes weiter. Kevan shel kaimu ama beit mamon Yisrael. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan agrees, he just quotes a different pasuk. He quotes, Hofia mehar paran. So we'll say, so Hofia mehar paran, that literally again, so Hofia, he revealed from Har Paran. Now Rashi points out there, what's Har Paran? Kishesive vehexra TORAH kala umos lo kiblua. So this pasuk over here, the pasuk over here in Devarim, is talking about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and offered the Torah to the nations of the world, and none of them accepted it. And then it gives it to Klal Yisrael. Not only do we accept it, but we say Nasav Nishma. There's a blind acceptance. We'll do it. We'll take it. We don't even know what's in it, but we'll take it. So Hofiyah Mehar Paran, HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and literally revealed from Har Paran. So the Gemara says over here, what does this mean? Mi Paran Hofiyah Mamon li Yisrael. From here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, revealed, permitted the money of the nations of the world to Klal Yisrael. So once again, it doesn't mean I could take something from the nations of the world, but what it does mean is, in cases of damages, there's not going to be liability. See, all because the community of mankind abdicated its spiritual standing by non-compliance with Sheva Mitzvos Bnei Noach. That's it. It's a simple expectation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu has of all of this. Remember again, we haven't cornered the market on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every human being is a child of the Ribbon Shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, so I have expectations. If you're my child, I have expectations. So for the Jewish people, the expectations are TORAH, 613 mitzvos. For the nations of the world, the expectations are 7 mitzvos. That's it. That's your expectations. And the community of mankind failed to live up to their expectations. Chalash Baruch Hu says, if that's the case, then the truth is the social contract between you and Klal Yisrael has been broken. Remember again, for there to be a cohesive community of mankind, Klal Yisrael, we have to observe Taryag 613 mitzvos, and the nations of the world have to observe 7 mitzvos. If we're doing our part, but they're not doing our part, they're doing their part, the social contract is broken. And once the social contract is broken, so everything unravels. Shbarach says, okay, so even in the realm of damages. So therefore, again, if a Jew damages a non-Jew, they're released from liability. Why? Because the Umos HaOlam did not live up to their part of the social contract. It's incredible. Time the rest of that supports this. If a Jewish shar goes ahead and gores a non-Jewish shar, pater. So ultimately, again, the Jew is pater. First wide line. On the other hand, if the shar of a non-Jew injures the shar of a Jew, then so remember, this is a penalty. But if the shar of a non-Jew injures a Jew, whether the perpetrator shar is a tam or a muad, you have to pay nezek shalim. Shnei emar amad vayimoded aretz ra'a vayatzer goyim va'omer hofia mehar paran. So here, actually, this brisa quotes both psukim. So Gemara says, "My va'omer." Why do you have to quote the second pasuk? V'chi tema hay amad vayimoded aretz mi ba'ilei l'chid Rav Masach and Rav Yosef. Maybe you're going to say because the first pasuk of amad vayimoded aretz ra'a vayatzer goyim is needed for a different drasha. The drasha of Rav Masna and Rav Yosef, which we'll see in just a moment. Tashma hofia mehar paran, mi paran hofia mamonan li Yisrael. So again, even if you think that the first pasuk is used for a different drasha, you have the second pasuk of hofia mehar paran. So the Gemara says, by the way, my Rav Masna, what's the drasha of Rav Masna? It's incredible. Then Rav Masna, amad vayimodit aretz ra'a, ma ra'a. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu see? What did he see when the pasuk says amad vayimodit aretz ra'a? He saw. What did he see? He saw. The Baruch Hu commanded the nations of the world 7 mitzvos, and they did not go ahead and fulfill them. So the Gemara says, Amad v'higla osa me'al ad masam. This is incredible. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that the nations of the world did not go ahead and live up to their side of the social contract, the religious contract, HaKadosh Baruch Hu exiled them from their lands. It's interesting because often we're used to hearing this concept with Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, right? When we don't comply with the tenets of the Torah, so we reject HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the land rejects us. But the truth is, we often assume that this is a uniquely Jewish concept. So Rav Masna says that's not true. When the nations of the world reject Shem Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and do not live up to their part of the social contract, in the spiritual contract, they are exiled from their lands. Incredible. So how do you know that lashon of vayoter ultimately again is lashon of galus, of exile? So it's actually interesting. The Gemara is quoting from the pasuk in Vayikra when it's talking about again certain hopping insects which are kosher. So the Gemara discusses over here the idea of haholech al arba shalo b'ra'im mima'al raglav linater bahen al ha'aretz. And how do you darsha linater? So the Gemara says metargem lekaftza bahon al aretz, referring to grasshoppers, like jumping insects. Okay, so from here you see the lashon of linater, jumping. So again, also means galus. What's galus? The removing of one population from a particular land and moving it somewhere else. Incredible. My Rav Yosef. So that's what Rav Masna used the pasuk for. What does Rav Yosef use the pasuk for? Rav Yosef, Amad vayimodit aretz ra'a. Mara, again, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu see? What did Moshe see? So ra'a Shem mitzvos shekibalim b'nei Noach lo kaimum. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that there are 7 mitzvos that b'nei Noach were commanded to keep and they did not keep them. Amad v'tiran lahem. This is wild. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that the nations of the world did not keep the Shem mitzvos b'nei Noach. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, okay, you're not going to keep them? I permit it to you. Well, sounds like HaKadosh Baruch Hu released them from the obligation to keep Shem mitzvos b'nei Noach. So the Gemara says, really? Iskuri iskar? So apparently they're getting rewarded. Imkain matzinu chote niskar. So I guess you get rewarded, right? You don't listen to the mitzvahs. You don't do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He frees you from liability. That's strange. So when you do the wrong thing, you get rewarded in life. Chote niskar. So generally we have a concept. Ein chote niskar. The sinner should not be rewarded. But here again, it sounds like the nations of the world didn't observe the Shabbat mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and they're rewarded. This is incredible. What it means to teach us is that when they're freed from responsibility, it means that at this point, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, forget it. You don't have to keep it. And even if they do keep it, they don't get reward. Is that true? Rabbi Meir said, how to know that if a non-Jew involves himself in the Torah, which means that without even delving too deeply into what this means, but on a most basic level, if a non-Jew observes spiritual precepts, he observed mitzvos, he tries to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he's like a Kohen Gadol. He's like a Kohen. What does he like a Kohen Gadol? The Kohen Gadol is like the epitome of Kedusha, the epitome of holiness. The idea being that one should never think that the Jewish people have cornered the market on holiness. But even a Gentile, even a non-Jew who tries to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who tries to be a good person, who involves himself in spiritual endeavors, he could reach a level of holiness like the Kohen Gadol. Whether it's exactly like the Kohen Gadol, not like the Kohen Gadol, the point over here is he could achieve a heightened level of holiness. Talmud Lomar, Asher Ya'aseh Osa Adam V'chai Bohem. So I will say, because the pasuk says, these are the mitzvahs that a person shall do, Asher Ya'aseh Osam Ha'adam. It says that a person will fulfill them. Kohanim Levim Yisrael Lo Ne'emar Ela Adam. Pasuk uses a very nondescript term, Adam. Adam, if an Adam performs the mitzvahs, he will live. Who's Adam? Everyone's included in Adam. So the Gemara says, "Halamarata shafilu nachri va'osik patora harehu kekohen gadol." What you see from here is that halacha l'maisa, even if a person is a non-Jew and they're involved in Torah, they become mamish like a kohen gadol. So a point over here is you see that they do get reward. Amri emakabel aliyaschar kimitzuva va'osa ela kimishe'ena mitzuva. So you're right. If it not now, so just to follow the progression. Once the nations of the world abdicated their spiritual responsibility to observe the Shem Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu freed them from responsibility. What do you mean freed them from responsibility? That they don't get rewarded. They don't get rewarded. But they do get rewarded, we see. They get rewarded, it's actually incredible. They get rewarded like someone. They get rewarded like someone who's not commanded to do something but still does it. But they don't get rewarded for doing something as if they were commanded to do it and fulfill that dictum. So we have this concept, we've seen this before, that there is greater reward for someone who is commanded to do something and he complies, more than for someone who is not commanded to do something and does it of their own volition. Even though intuitively, we often think the opposite is true, right? If you go out of your way to do something that you're not commanded to do, we think there's a higher level of reward. But we know, like, b'derech hashkafa, anything you have to do, you generally have a yetzer hara not to do. And basically, Basham the Kodesh explains, man doesn't like to be told what to do. Don't tell me what to do. And consciously, subconsciously, when we are told what to do, we often find ways to rebel in order to flex our muscles of self-autonomy. When I'm doing something on my own, that's my own decision, the yetzer hara is not the same. Therefore, the Gemara says, it's really incredible, the Gemara says that there is greater reward for fulfilling a mitzvah that you are commanded to do, more than fulfilling a mitzvah that you are not commanded to do. So therefore, the nations of the world, when they do a mitzvah, there is reward. But at the end of the day, it's getting rewarded for something that you were not commanded to do. So because they did not comply with Shem Mitzvahs B'nei Noach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu freed them from that responsibility. And therefore, if they choose to do it, do they get reward? Of course. But they get rewarded as someone who is not commanded to do a mitzvah, but does it anyway. Incredible. So just mention, just like Adarach Hashkafa, it's such a fascinating idea that here, the nations of the world didn't comply with the Shem Mitzvahs B'nei Noach. So the Baruch Hu's response is to free them from any and all expectations and obligations. There's a tremendous Musar Haskell in this, which is the moment you no longer have expectations of someone is the moment you kind of like write them off. You give them up. We know this, right? Like in life, like when you need something done, there are some people who you can call and some people you can't call, right? And sometimes the people you can't call, they'll yes you, oh yeah. But you're not going to, in other words, so for that type of person, I don't have any expectations of that person. Because I don't have any expectation that they could comply, I just don't ask them for anything. There is nothing worse in life than the Ribono Shel Olam not having any expectations of you. Sometimes you go through life and we think to ourselves, 613 mitzvos, there's so much upon us, right? 613, give me 7, right? Give me 10, give me 50, give me 100. 613, it seems like a lot, but understand, the more HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts on us represents the heightened level of confidence He has in us. Listen to this, you only give someone 613 mitzvos if you believe they have the ability to comply, if you believe they have the ability to execute, if you believe that they have the ability to be excellent. You don't give someone, that's why like in halacha, a cheresh to the cotton, right? Cheresh to the cotton is exempt, they're exempt from mitzvahs. Why? They don't have capacity. So if you don't have capacity, there are no expectations of you. But in this universe, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greatest expectations He has is of a Yid, is of a Jew. There is no creature in this great universe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has greater expectations of than me and you. And although sometimes it can feel absolutely overwhelming, but at the end of the day, what a vote of confidence in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, He gave me 613 mitzvahs. Do you know why? Because He believes in us. The obligations levied upon us are the greatest testament to the belief that the Ribono Shel Olam has in us. It's absolutely overwhelming to contemplate. So the next time we feel like a little bit, maybe burdened, or a little bit overwhelmed, right? The next morning, the alarm goes off. You just don't want to do it. I don't want this. I wish I didn't have this expectation. Or the next time, somebody comes collecting for tzedakah and you don't really feel like giving. Or the next time there's an opportunity to do a chesed, but maybe I don't even like the person who needs the chesed all that much. Just remember, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put those expectations upon us because He believes in us. And what this Gemara teaches us is that the moment HaKadosh Baruch Hu stops believing in you, He'll exempt you. No problem. Go, enjoy life. Have a great life, right? Enjoy the party. I don't have any more expectations of you. Just do your thing, live out your life, go through the motions, do whatever you're going to do with your time on this earth. He puts so much on us that Ribono Shel Olam saddles us with so much awesome and overwhelming, at times, responsibility, simply because He believes in us. Let's go back there. It says in the Torah, Ukvar Sholcha Malchus Romi Shtei, this is actually incredible Gemara, Shtei Sardiotos Eitzel Chachmei Yisrael. So listen to this. So the Roman Empire sent 2 officers to some of the Jewish scholars, the Chachmei Yisrael, with a simple request. Well, it's not a simple request, it's a pretty overwhelming request, but this is the request. So they say, Lamdunu Toraschem, teach us Torah. So the Romans wanted to learn Torah, so they sent two officers to the Rabbanim, teach us Kala Torah Kulo. Okay, what happens? Karu, Vashanu, Vashilshu. So they learned everything. Vashas Petirasan, when the officers were ready to take leave of the rabbis, Amru lahem diknaknu b'chol Toraskem ve'emesu. We've looked at your entire Torah and it's truth. Incredible. I want to be clear. We don't need the nations of the world to admit to the truthfulness of our Torah. We don't need that. We've learned a long time ago. Like some people go through life and they're always looking for approval. They always need affirmation from other people. As a nation, we've learned long ago, we don't need anyone else's approval or affirmation because we are the Am Yisroel, the chosen nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's all we need. But it is nice sometimes when it does happen. So the officer said, we review Torah, MS, the whole thing is MS. Chutz, there's one thing that bothers us. Sha'atem omrim shor shal Yisrael shenagach shor shal Kinani pater v'shal Kinani shenagach shor shal Yisrael bein tam bein mu'an v'shayim nezik shalim. So what they were bothered was the halach in our Mishnah. Here's what we don't understand. If the Jewish shar gores a non-Jewish shar, so pater. But if a non-Jewish shar gores a Jewish shar, then whether the goring shar was tam or muad, you have to pay complete damages. And these officers said, again, obviously the officers, they were holding, right? They did the sugyas. So they said like this, If we darshan re'ehu, then I feel a Kanani kinagach the Yisraeli pater. Then even when a Kanani gores a Jew, it should also be pater. V'i re'ehu lav dafka. But if you don't darshan re'ehu, I feel the Yisrael kinagach the Kanani l'chayiv. Then even if a Jewish shar gores a non-Jewish shar, you should be chayiv. The davar zeh. So out of the entire Torah, this was the one halacha that didn't make sense. I just want to point out, it's not the pshat that they were saying it's not right. You're favoring Jews over non-Jews. They were asking, either you make the drasha of Re'ehu or you don't make the drasha of Re'ehu. But either way, be consistent. And they said, the davar zeh ein anu modim osol malchus. They said, okay, but we're leaving. Shkayach, thank you for the time. Thank you for teaching us. We're going to share what we learned with the Roman emperor, with the Caesar, with the government. But we're going to leave out this halacha. So meaning it's fascinating because they understood this halacha could obviously cause incredible animosity. And they were impressed, obviously, with what they learned, and probably they were impressed from who they learned from. And therefore, again, we're going to go back to Rome, give them over all the teachings, but this teaching we're not going to say over. Incredible. We'll say, this is now an overwhelming Gemara. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Shchiva Le Barte. Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, his daughter passed away. Now, the Pashas, you see from the context over here, that it was a young girl. So Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda lost his daughter. Amrli Rabbana le'ula, kum nezel ninchamei. So the rabbi said to Ula, we're going to be menachem, we're going to comfort the mourner. Right? Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda is sitting Shiva, we're going to comfort him. Amr lehu, ma isli gabi nechemte de bavloi, digidufu. So this Ula responds very sharply. He's like, I'm not going to console the mourners to the Babylonians. Why? Because the way the Babylonians console each other, it's blasphemy. Rashi says over here, how is it blasphemous? Listen to this. The Amri, my afshar avid. Apparently by the Babylonians, when they were sitting Shiva, it was common for the Avel to say, either for the Avel to say or for other people to say the Avel, my afshali of it. What is there to do? In other words, the loss is the loss. The person has died. What is there to do? What's the problem with that statement? Ha'afshali eved avdi. The inference from that is that if you could change the circumstances, you would. But here's the problem. The problem with that is it's a lack of acceptance of the justness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's din. You know, when Rahman a person loses a loved one, we have a tefillah called Tziduk Hadin. Tziduk Hadin, and Tziduk Hadin is essentially acceptance of judgment. That as part of our avoda as Jews is to accept that whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is just, is correct, even if it hurts and even if it's painful, even if we can't understand it. Right? We say Hashem nasan, Hashem lakach, Yihi Shem Hashem avarach. Hashem has given, Hashem has taken. The name of Hashem should be blessed. That part of our obligation that we have as Jews is, although we have a very rich history of questioning, but when it comes to difficult events in life, sometimes our avoda is to accept, and to accept the fact that even though some events in life defy comprehension, I believe that all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is just. So Rabbi Yehuda, Ula did not want to go to Menachem Aval by Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda because he felt that the way the Babylonians speak during Shiva, the way they comfort each other, is not right. By the way, there's a similar halacha like this in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch brings down Hilchos Adelus that a person shouldn't say, "Oh, if only I could change this, I would." Even though it's something like the most reflexive thing to say, but you can't say that. Why? Because whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is just, and even if I feel it, I can't verbalize it. And I have to reach a level where ultimately I could accept whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu does in this world, even if it pains me to pieces. And even if there's a sense of anger that I have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but at least to be able not to articulate it. I can articulate it between myself and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's always this space to have open and honest dialogue, even if it's anger, and even if it's resentment, and even if it's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But kind of like in the context of community, we have to work on acceptance. So therefore, again, Ula didn't want to go. So what happened? So the Gemara says, Azahu lechudei gabe. So in other words, what turns out from the Gemara is Ula didn't want to go with the group. Ula went to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda by himself. So listen to this. So this is now the Shiva visit between Ula and Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. So Amrlei, Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Al Tatzir Asma Val Tiskar Bam Nechama. So Baruch Hu says to Moshe, do not go ahead and do not afflict or do not go to war against Moab. V'chima Allah al daito. This is the Shiva visit. V'chima Allah al daito shal Moshe lasos melchama shelo b'rishus. Sounds like Baruch Hu is telling Moshe not to go to war against Moab. So it sounds like Moshe was ready to go to war. Moshe is going to go to war without the permission of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That doesn't seem to make much sense. Ela nosa Moshe kavachomer biatzmo. Moshe Rabbeinu made a kavachomer. What was the kavachomer? Uma midyanim shelo ba'u ela la'azor es Moav. So the midyanim only came to help Moab, right? When they were fighting against the Jews. So Amra Torah, yet the Torah says, round up the Midyanim and go to battle against them. So the Midyanim were only helping out Moab in their oppression of the Jewish people. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, go and round up and destroy Moab. We'll say, Lamed Chesed base 38b. Moabim atzman l'kol shekin. So certainly Moab itself were the ringleaders in all this. Right? So remember, by the way, Rashi points out that this is specifically Bilam. Right? Remember again, the nation of Moab were the ones who went ahead and hired Bilam. So remember, it's only after Bilam's cursing of the Jewish people failed that the Midyanim decide, you know what? Bilam's advice also, let's ensnare them in a web of immorality. So Moshe made a kavachomer. If the Midyanim, who are only following the example set by Moab, so they're right. We have an obligation to go out to war against them, and certainly Moab themselves, who started this whole thing, we should go to war against them. Kadosh Baruch Hu lo. Kadosh Baruch Hu says no. Lo kisha al sadaitcha al sadaiti. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, Moshe, I don't think the way you think. In other words, literally again, what comes upon my mind is not what comes upon your mind. Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, Kadosh Baruch Hu saying, Moshe Rabbeinu, you only see in the here and now. But I, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm responsible for seeing Haya, Chobaviya, past, present, and future, and seeing all of them concurrently. Watch this. Shtei preidos tovos yeshu lahotzi mehen. There are two beautiful doves that I have to take out from this nation of Moab. Who are they? Rus Samoaviyah, Mena'ama ha'amonis. So beautiful. Rus and Na'ama. Two women who would join the ranks of the Jewish people, who each of them played their own role in the creation and then continuity of the Davidic dynasty. So there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, don't go to war against Moab, don't touch Moab, because there are still two women who have to come from this nation who are going to join and bolster Klal Yisrael. Incredible. So we'll say, so what does this have to do with anything? So remember, this is a shiur visit. So again, if at the end of the day, because of these two doves, right? So ultimately, again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu spared the nations of Ammon and Moab, right? So Moab here, the Torah tells us, you're not allowed to start up with Ammon and Moab. Why not? Because Baruch Hu said to Moshe, there are two doves, Rus and Na'ama, who have to come from these nations, so leave them alone. So Ula says to Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel, so you see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu leaves nations when there's something that's going to come from them in the future. So he says, Bito shal Rebbe, im kshir re'i lates mimenu davar tov, alachas Kamma v'Kamma dehava chayim. So let's translate the words, and then let's see what he says. So Ula says this whole drasha to Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel. He says, Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel, if your daughter had more to accomplish, right? If she was supposed to marry and bring forth future generations, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have let her live longer. Okay, so this was the Nichum Avelin. So what's happening over here? So I think what Ula is touching on is something very, very profound. Sometimes one of the most tragic elements of loss is a feeling that a person has not fully actualized their potential. Right? A person dies, and they could have done so much more, they could have accomplished so much more. This pain and this feeling is exacerbated and amplified 100-fold in Nachmana Litzlan Lo Aleinu, the loss of a child. Right? What's the beauty of a child? The beauty of a child is when you look at a child, what you see is potential. When you look at a child, all you see is like what can be in the future. And when the child leaves this world, the pain of not only just the loss, that someone who I love is gone, but the loss of that potential. And Ula understood that this was the pain that Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel was sitting with. So what does Ula say? Ula says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not allow a person to leave this world until their potential is fully actualized. V'haraya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, leave alone Ammon and Moab. Why? Because something's coming down the pike. There are two women who are going to come out of these nations, Rus and Na'ama. Rus from Moab, Na'ama from Ammon. So don't touch them, because so you see from here that when something has to happen in the future, because Baruch Hu doesn't allow anything to happen to those entities in the present. So therefore, what Ulu was saying to Rabbi Shmuel is something so profound. He says, your daughter, it's overwhelming. Your daughter did everything she was supposed to do in this world. Whatever her tachlis was, whatever her avoda was, She did it. And you should not chas v'shalom think that she left this world before being able to accomplish her mission, her tachlis, her tafkid. Whatever she was put here to do, she did. This was the Nechama Ve'elim. This was the Nechama Ve'elim. And the story of course ends right there. And it's thinking about what an overwhelming Gemara, because Chevra, one of the things that is so painful for us in this current kufa is when we look at so many of those who were so brutally murdered on Simchas Torah on October 7th here in Eretz Yisrael. We think about every one of those karbanos is overwhelming. But you hear about children, the death of a child in general is heart-wrenching, and the murder and sadistic murder of a child is overwhelming. But what's important for us to know is that whatever the avoda of these precious children were in this world, whatever they were supposed to do, they did. The truth is, it goes for every man, woman, and child, and it has to be a nechama for us for this particular difficult chapter of Klal Yisrael. But I think also even just in our own personal losses, we all deal with loss in different ways. And sometimes when we lose that loved one, that pain of unrealized potential or unactualized dynamic life activity, and we have to realize that what Ula was saying is everyone does what they're supposed to do before they leave this world. Because if they didn't do what they were supposed to, Kadosh Baruch Hu would not let them leave. And this was the Shiva visit. This was Shiva visit between Ula and Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel. Who knows? I don't know if Rabbi Yehuda bar Shmuel felt better immediately after Ula said these words or not. But sometimes people say words of consolation that don't necessarily console you in the moment, but further down the road, maybe when you're a little bit more open and receptive to it, those words have a way of sinking into the heart. Incredible Gemara. Am Rabbi Chiya bar Abba, Am Rabbi Yochanan. Enech Kadosh Baruch Hu mekapeach schar kol beria, afilu schar sicha noah. So listen to this. Kadosh Baruch Hu is a beautiful Gemara. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't withhold the reward due to any person. Every person gets rewarded for their actions, even a small action. For example, sicha noah, nice speech. De'ilu bechira deka'amra Moav. So remember again, Ammon and Moab come from Lot and his two daughters. The oldest daughter, who had relations with her father first, calls her son Moab. Now, Moab is a pretty explicit name. Moab means Me'av, from my father. So this oldest daughter pretty much publicized this act of incest. So Baruch Hu tells Moshe when it comes to Moab, Al tiskar bam, al tatras Moab, Al tiskar bam milchama. Right, literally, don't afflict Moab, and don't do war with them. Milchamahu delo, so you can't go to war with them. Ha'angaria avibu, but you can tax them. Tax them. In other words, you can make Moab into a vassal state, but you can't go to war with them. So the Gemara says, Tzira de Kamra ben Ami. Now the younger daughter, after she had relations with her father, became pregnant and gave birth. She named her son Ammon. Ammon means son of my nation. So she does not publicize the act of incest. So Moshe, when the Torah talks about, again, the treatment of Ammon, the Torah says, you're not allowed to start up with Ammon at all. Meaning, you can't even tax them. So the Gemara says, how do you understand the difference in treatment between to Ammon and to Moab? So Moab, you can't do war, but you can tax them. Ammon, you can't do war and you can't tax them. Why the distinction? So the Gemara attributes it to the fact that the younger daughter spoke nicer than the older daughter. The older daughter was a bit more, as they say, prust, a bit more explicit in her indiscretion. Even though, again, it was l'shem shamayim. But l'maisa, still, it was a little bit, it's not right. It's not the way to speak. And the younger daughter spoke in a better way, a more refined way, and therefore, again, her offspring is rewarded. A really incredible Gemara just about the power of just positive speech. Positive speech, sicha noah. Even for just positive, even if, sometimes in life you have to say difficult things. So the goal in life is to be able to say difficult things in a nice way. You have to give feedback, you have to give criticism, you have to give critiques, and you have to give musar. Sichana, do it nicely. Do it nicely. Everything, any way that we interact, any way that we speak should always be with a beautiful lashon towards one another. And again, Gemara says, Kadosh Baruch Hu gives schar, even sichana. Incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. Rabbi Chiya bar Abba, Rabbi Shmuel Silber, the olam yaktim adam ledvar mitzvah. A person should always be alacritus, right? That person should always have zrizos, right? Should run to do a mitzvah. Why? The Gemara says, This is incredible. Now, it's interesting, the lashon of yakdim adam. Yakdim adam l'dvar mitzvah means, like kodem means early. In other words, in general, in life, it could be that I'm about to do something, but we know this, like, you could do it like, kind of schlepping along, or you could move. You could do it. So the Gemara says, when doing a mitzvah, even though, either way I'm going to get the act done, but there's something, yakdim, do it with zrizos, do it with hislavos, do it with excitement, do it with haste, because when you do something with haste, it shows that you care about what it is they're doing and find the meaning in it. So the Gemara says, listen to this. This is a reverse drush. Listen to this. The Gemara says, Shebishvil b'ayla acha shekidmasa b'chir l'tzira, kidmasa arba doros liYisroel. Because the older daughter took the initiative and had relations with her father first. Now remember, again, just to back up a little bit, the daughters of Lot thought that the world was destroyed. That's why they slept with their father. Right? They thought they were the last woman, he was the last man. So if there was any future, it was going to have to come from them. The older daughter, it was her idea, and she went first. She went first. So because of that, because, so to speak, she had zrizos, kadma arbados Yisrael. Ultimately, her offspring joins the Jewish people 4 generations earlier. In other words, Oved, Yishai, David, Shlomo. And that's the nation of Moab. Because remember again, Moab comes from Rus. Rus comes from Moab. And ultimately again, Rus's descendants are Oved, Yishai, right? In other words, her first Jewish descendant is Oved. Okay, Ve'ilu Tzira, but the younger daughter, who was the mother of the nation of Ammon, so Ad Rechavam. So remember again, so ultimately again, she has a daughter Naama, and Naama has a son Rechavam, son of Shlomo Melech. Shem Imo Naama ha'Amonis. So remember again, Shlomo marries Naama, they have a son Rechavam. So the point over here is, it's interesting that Ammon joins the Jewish people earlier than Moab, and the Gemara attributes this to the fact that the older daughter, the mother of Moab, ultimately had zrizos. She had greater alacrity to this mitzvah, to ultimately, again, perpetuating what she thought was the human race at this point in time over her younger sister. It's interesting kind of where you see zrizos from. But again, the idea being that a HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead, when a HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees that someone is trying to do the right thing and putting in the effort to do the right thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never withholds reward from such a person. Suppose you know another interesting Gemara. So right, if a shor of a Yisroel goes ahead and gores the shor of a kusi, and then we'll say, we're back to kusim. Kusim come up, I think, pretty much in every Masechta. So remember again, kusim, the king Shalmaneser, who went ahead and exiled the 10 tribes, went ahead and brought in other nations and settled them in Eretz Yisrael. Among them were these people from the country of Kusa, known as Kusim. There was an outbreak, now Kusim were idolaters, there was an outbreak of lions, and the Kusim converted. There's a whole shaila as to whether or not the conversion of the Kusim is a legitimate conversion or not. So the Gemara says, so shor shal yisrael shenagach shor shal kusi. So if a Jewish shor went ahead and gored a kusi shor, so what's the halacha pater? Ultimately the Yisrael's pater. V'shal kusi shenagach shor shal Yisrael tam b'shayim chatzi nezek more b'shayim nezek shalim. But if a kusi shor goes ahead and gores a Jewish shor, if it's a tam, you pay half damages. And if it's a muad, nezek shalim. Rabbi Meir says, shor shal Yisrael shenagach shor shal kusi pater. V'shal kusi shenagach shor shal Yisrael ben tam muad mishalim nezek shalim. Meir on the other hand holds that halacha l'maisa, if a kusi shor goes ahead and gores a Jewish shor, nezek shalim. Jewish shor gores a kusi shor, pater, sorry. Remember the story of Meir kusim gerayos. So we'll say, obviously, Rabbi Meir is treating kusim like non-Jews. So is that Rabbi Meir holds that kusim like gerayos? Or mini, Rabbi Meir is kasha, kolak samim al boy merakem torim. We'll say samim are stains. Now we're dealing over here with halacha l'maisa, again, menstrual bleeding. So in general, again, a stain that comes from menstrual bleeding could go ahead and convey tumah, unless, of course, it comes from a non-Jew. So therefore, the Gemara says, any samim coming from the city of Rekem are tar. Why? Rashi points out over here, Torim ir sheruba nochrim hi. Again, ultimately, it's a city where the majority of the population are non-Jews. Rashi points out over here, dam nochri tar midarai. So the chsiv, dabra b'nei Yisrael, Isha ki tazriya v'yalda bas Yisrael matama b'leido b'nida. So again, it's the Gemara darshans, only a Jewish woman conveys tumah through nida, but a nochris, a non-Jewish woman, does not. So therefore, again, any stains that come from Rekem are tar. Rabbi Yehuda metame. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, they're tameh. Why? Because in fact, in Rekem, they were converts. They were Jewish, but they were not very knowledgeable in halacha. And therefore, halacha l'maisa, you have to go ahead and treat them as menstrual stains from Jewish women, and therefore, again, they convey tumah. Okay, so the Gemara goes weiter. Fine. Fine. So therefore, stains that right. So again, if there's a stain that comes from nachrim, non-Jews, it's tar from Jews, and from kusim. So we're looking Jews and kusim together. Rabbi Meir says they're both tameh. So Rabbi Meir treats kusim like Jews. And the Chacham ultimately say that they're tar. Why? Because ultimately, and the Chacham hold that halacha l'maisa, they're not nechshad on ksan. I will say, why is this important for us? Alma kasar meir kusim gere emesen. I will say, the point over here is, this is a long-winded proof, or contradiction. Rabbi Meir holds that kusim are Jews. We just said before, kusim are not Jews, right? Rabbi Meir held that halacha l'maisa, that if a Jew goes and injures if a Jewish shar injures a kusi shar, pater, and if a kusi shar injures a Jewish shar, whether it's tam or mod, you pay nezek shalim, which means you're treating a kusi like an akum. Here we're saying, according to Rabbi Meir, that a kusi is ultimately again considered. That the kusi is considered like a Jew. So what's going on over here? To which the Gemara says, Am Rabbi Avo, kinasu shechan shaymer b'mamonam, shelo yitamu bahen. Ultimately, again, you're right, the Gemara says it was a knas. It's a penalty payment. It was a penalty payment. Ultimately, again, that halacha l'maisa, they impose this penalty payment to avoid intermarriage. Okay. Rashi says over here, Kamma. Fine. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, Maser Rabbi Zera is the kasha, ve'elu nara sheishlan kinas. So let's remember again, if a man violates a nara, man violates a girl, then there's a penalty payment that he has to pay for violating her. So the Gemara says, Bama mamzeres v'ala nesina v'ala kusis. And this applies whether the girl is a mamzer, a regular Jew, regular Jewish girl, mamzeres, a nesina, or a kusis. So why doesn't Rabbi Meir say a knas over here also? Say that a Jewish man who violates a kusi girl shouldn't be chayiv to pay the penalty payment. Ultimately, again, I will say why. Because if a man violates a woman, if you free him from liability to pay the penalty payment, then ultimately, again, you're rewarding the sinner, which of course is incorrect. To which the Gemara says, therefore again, we pay the penalty payment. So why not just go ahead and take the penalty payment? Don't give it to the girl, give it to the poor. Ultimately, here's the problem with that. The problem is that halacha l'maisa, if the man violates a girl, the kusi girl, and you don't make him liable to pay her, just say, give it to tzedakah, that's fine. Who's going to claim that if he doesn't pay it? In order to ensure that he pays, there has to be a defined claimant. There has to be someone who's actively chayiv to go ahead and pay. Incredible. So I will say it happens to be, therefore fine. So therefore we know in general, this machlokes about kusim is an ongoing machlokes. Even over here, what's the halacha? Ultimately, again, if a Jewish shar gores a kusi shar, that's going to be machlokes. But it's the same general machlokes in terms of what is the status of kusim. All right, Jabosai, we will stop over here for today. What an incredible zechus to with all of you. Wishing everyone an incredible, beautiful start to the week. Halavai again, it should be a week of Besoros Tovos Klal Yisroel. I'm wishing everyone a freilich and Chanukah.